All right, well, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin.
I'm Tarsha.
And this is, of course, Conversations with the Crawleys, where we have conversations about faith, family, relationships, and recaps, reviews, and commentary on some of our favorite TV shows. This one is all about Married at First Sight, Boston edition. We are 2 weeks away, it looks like, at least in their time, from Decision Day.
Yes. It's
So,
almost over. It's almost over.
It's almost over, yeah.
Whew.
So if this is content that you enjoy, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like, request notifications.
And share.
And of course, we'll see you all in the comments. First of all, before we jump into it, we appreciate each and every one of you guys, part of the squad, that sent your well wishes and everything as we were kind of wrestling with COVID. We're all better now.
Yeah, about 95%.
I'm good. She's still recuperating a little.
He good.
I'm good. Took a few naps and I'm good now.
Yeah.
All right, but listen, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for kind of sticking in there and letting us know that you guys are concerned about us and appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All right, so let's jump into it. This one, they all went on a retreat, if you will, up to Vermont.
Right. They had 2 days. Huge log cabin.
Yep.
Got the heated pools and
Jacuzzis
and fire pit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the middle of nowhere, Peru, Vermont. Didn't know there was a Peru, Vermont.
Oh, Peru, Vermont.
Yep. So.
Fun.
Yep. So one thing we did notice that it was like, wow, that's surprising. So when the opening scene where everybody's kind of getting ready to go out and get in their cars and head on this road trip, we see, who was it?
It was Steve and Noy. So Mark and Lizzie got all their stuff together. They're about to leave. They opened their front door to their apartment, and who's across the hall?
Coming out at the same time.
It's Steve and Noy. I'm like, oh, dang.
That's a little too close for comfort. I'm sorry.
We're living across the hall from each other?
I don't know. Let us know what you think, because I thought, hey, they're all in the same apartment complex. Get that same building.
With different floors.
At different ends of the hallway, stuff like that. But I come outside and I'm like, hi, neighbor.
Nah, I want that.
No.
But
because
I guess they weren't paid for it, so they had no choice.
True.
Interesting.
So they're all kind of headed that way. Conversations in the car for Michael and Jasmina, their desires to, of course, build a deeper connection.
Right.
And he asked a good question. Michael is asking good, intentional questions.
Yes, I like his question.
He asks, okay, where do you see us at right now? 1, which is we're on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right.
5, we're kind of in the middle there. 10 is we've got a deep connection going on.
Right.
And so she says that she's at a 5 right now.
Right.
So they're not where they were when they first got married.
Right.
But she's not there yet.
Right.
And so he even asks a follow up and says, okay, do we need to be at a 10 for us to, continue on? And she's like, no, but it does have to be beyond this 5.
Which I think is good because, again, we say certain things, but your partner may not know. So you never want to assume.
Right.
And for him to ask a question, because she was like, she said something about, I just wanted it to look good or something. He's like, well, what does looking good to you mean?
Right.
As far as a deeper connection with me. And so I think sometimes we just allow people to say stuff sometimes they don't even know what they're saying.
Right.
So they can make sure they're communicating well. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go, and we'll talk a little bit more, I guess, about their trip here.
Yeah.
But I think they had a really good conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of conversations start when you have to take a long road trip.
Yeah, that's when you really get to have those conversations, especially if you're like, you're not falling asleep on me.
Right.
Right.
Right. Driving or not driving.
Yeah.
You're just trying to keep people entertained.
So that was their car conversation. On the other side of the highway, Noy and Steve.
Yeah. Now, Steve is about to annoy me this time around because she's trying to tell him the post wasn't about you.
Right.
Then who was it about? Well, it sounded like you were saying it was about me. And he keeps going on and on.
Literally, they're going around in circles about this.
I'm like, sometimes you just got to stop if it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And you have to agree to disagree and give a person a time to really think about what they've done, how they're affecting you. Sometimes it just takes a minute.
Right.
And he's like, we got to get every issue resolved today. And I think that's the problem.
Right.
He felt like he had to resolve every issue. You ain't going to get every issue resolved. Sorry.
At all.
Stay married.
Yeah. For more than 8 weeks.
For more than 8 weeks and talk to me.
But Mark and Lindsay are the first ones to show up.
Right.
And they run in there and try and find the best room.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, I like to get to places early so I can pick my room and get comfortable.
Yep.
Know where stuff is. Yep. Find my way around. So then everybody else can scatter around to find it. So, okay, cool. And right behind them
was Jasmina and Michael.
Right. So they found another room too,
Yeah.
Just getting situated and letting everybody else get there.
Right. So then everybody, of course, arrives and they start. So the ladies are out enjoying the jacuzzi.
And the men are cooking.
Well,
some of the men
most of the men are cooking.
Right.
So Elijah Wan, I guess he just has this thing that everybody's supposed to cook for him because he just sat his behind over there on the other side of the counter.
Because before I would walked out, if I was Katina, I would have like, oh, so you are going to get in the kitchen, right? Because all these times you've been criticizing me, so I want to see some of your cooking.
Yeah.
He can't cook.
Well, she said that he can cook.
Breakfast.
Well, true. That's true.
He hasn't done, she says she has not seen him done anything outside of breakfast.
Yeah.
So he didn't,
she at least got breakfast on him because them eggs that she made that time was kind of struggle. There was more eggs left in that pan than it was on that plate.
And I'm good with that. Just don't try to critique me in areas you ain't good at.
I'll give you that.
That's all I'm asking.
I'll give you that. So, and even the guys, who was it? Michael said that Steve probably did most of the cooking. So
they were the shoe chef.
Steve seems to be the cook, the chef of the group. So they're doing that. And then they finally, Lindsay is over there in the as the ladies are talking, right? Yeah. And just typical Lindsay fashion. She's just making statements, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, and Jasmina mentions this. She does seem to be. She got some
a little too much
drama. Because Lindsay again is propping her own self.
Right.
I really got to be everything for Mark coming up this week. He has so much things I gotta support him in, and I have to make sure I'm handling this. But I don't want to be his mother, But he has so much, and I'm like, okay. I feel like if you're just being a wife, hey, we have things coming up, and next week, as a couple, there's some things we're going to have to handle. So I'm enjoying the retreat.
Right.
But it's like when you single yourself out that you're doing something for somebody else, is it really for them?
Right.
Or is it for you to brag?
Stroking your ego.
Right. About what you're doing.
Yep.
And so I'm just like, and they just looking like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So they're all sitting around the table. And kind of going around sharing kind of where they are, things of that nature. Lindsay does her Riddler / Joker laugh. I don't know, because she makes some comment about nobody's going to survive. Somebody's not surviving the weekend.
Right. Just joking around, right? And everybody's looking like, if someone would try to kill somebody, we would try to pin it on you.
Right. You'd be the likely suspect.
You'd be the likely suspect, and so, and then Noy mentions, boy, she is a handful. She's loud, and she's a handful. And so it's interesting that you're seeing these little comments come out, right? Because we know something about I should have known this, something about to pop off. Yeah. Because everybody's making they're highlighting all these comments about Lizzie.
Yeah.
And so everybody's going around pretty much saying, we're doing good, we're trying, the effort. And then we get to
Steve and Noy. So Steve asks, he does the right thing, he asks.
He does.
Because in this type of environment, all the couples are like talking about their positives, their negatives, kind of where they're growing, what challenges they may have had, things of that nature. They're not going deep or in depth, but they're at least mentioning these are what's been going great. These are the challenges. So Steve asks Noy, do you want to bring that? Do you mind if we talk about it? She says no. That should have been the end of that conversation.
Like, well, guys, no, wherever I left off, that we're just gonna have to hold that for a minute.
Yep, because he did mention it to the guys, so the guys are at least aware,
Right.
and the guys kind of like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but she didn't want to bring this up in this type of environment with the couples, and she said later on that she felt like he was blindsiding her. But he kept kind of bouncing around it. Well, I feel like it's interesting that you don't want to talk about it and put everything out there, but you put everything out there, so it's interesting. So it's like he just kept going on and on and on about it, and it was just like, dude, relax,
Calm down. Again,
pump your brakes.
Because once they had went to bed, because now the tables are awkward. Here we go. Everybody looking like, I don't know what to say.
Right.
I don't know what's going on with y'all. I don't know what to say. So when they go to bed, she mentioned, she's like, well, if we're still fighting about it and it's not resolved between us,
Right.
I don't want to mention it in front of couples because we're still arguing about
Still
it.
figuring it out.
And I was like, that sounds intelligent, mature.
Yeah.
I was like, I totally agree with what you're saying. Kudos to you.
Because what Steve wants them to do is for everybody to convince Noe that she's wrong.
Right.
And that's not going to happen. Noe is digging. Noe has already refused the counsel, if you will, of her husband
and
Pastor Cal. So these other folks who are going through the process just like her aren't going to be the convincing people that he thinks that they are.
Exactly.
So it's useless to continue to beat this dead horse. And Steve just wants to beat this dead horse over and over and over again.
Yeah. So I have to give Noe her kudos this week.
Yeah.
She really showed up. She was communicating, how she feel. And then he goes, well, you know what? I think it's the weekend and we should let it go. Enjoy the retreat. And,
I think you should have said about 6 hours before that.
And he's like, oh, you wanted this side of the bed. And so they kind of make up in the sense of like, okay, we'll let it go.
Right.
So we can move on.
So, but then in the morning.
It's morning.
Mark and Lindsay. Lindsay's.
I thought they were going to be in a good place. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
They had a couple of days. Mark mentions that to the fellas while they're cooking dinner. And so it's morning time. And he wants to sleep. Retreat wants to sleep.
It's okay to sleep. Listen, I'm the type of person, when we go on vacation, I don't have to go sightseeing every 5 minutes.
We have to plan, like, okay, what time are you going to get up in the morning? Right. Are we going to go eat breakfast? We talk about this.
Right.
So we know pretty much what we're going to do and what time we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So we've worked through that. Because I do like to do stuff when we go on vacation and, get out and I can stay in bed at home. So, but at the same time, you do want to find some rest and get some balance.
Right.
So he's like, I want to stay and, lay in bed. And she's like nudging and kikiing.
Nuzzling up against him. And he's
kissing
like,
him.
And he's giving hints like, okay, that's enough.
Right. He's like, stop.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're good.
So finally, they do get out. He gets out of bed.
And he makes her coffee.
Right.
I was like, okay, I don't know why you have to make her coffee, but okay, whatever. So they come out to the patio or balcony, whatever, patio. And he says what they have planned for today.
Right.
He's like, I want you to relax. It's some company.
Not be so hyper.
Yeah, not be so hyper. We got a sound bath. Oh, Lord.
Like, mood shifted.
Why did you say that? So he's like, okay, weren't we just joking all this morning? You messing with me. I'm telling you no. So we're bantering and playing back for. I say this one thing, and I'm just like, does she need to determine if she has like some bipolar?
There's something there.
What in the world just happened here? Like, we're watching this.
Right.
Like, it's like we saw her laughing, joking with him like, like, okay, fine. And then when it comes out and his turn to try to just be playful banter, it turns into
you're attacking me.
You're attacking me. You dumping me.
You're
tearing me down. He's like, what?
Yeah.
So He's like, she gonna be like this all freaking day long.
He's like, this little pissy thing she got going on.
He was like, I'm gonna kiss.
He's like,
okay.
He's like, listen.
Okay.
He's like, because he basically was like, look.
Okay.
She basically makes it about her that, it's something that, he's attacking her, and he's like, okay, it's what we do. It's almost like he's like, yeah, this is what we signed up for. This is how she rocks.
Right. And he's like, okay, I'll just keep going out throughout the day and have her just show up in this attitude. I'm like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And the episode's only an hour and a half, and I was like done mentally.
Yeah.
I was drained. I needed a sound bath.
So Elijah, Juan, and Katina, they go out to the
farm.
To the alpaca farm.
Yes.
Alpaca. Right?
Alpaca farm.
Not the gazebo.
Lord Jesus.
The boy called them gazebos.
I'm hoping he was just teasing. He was just playing.
That boy was serious. He called them gazebos. He recognized he was wrong. Excuse me. He recognized he was wrong.
I would have rather him say a llama first.
Right. I could get llama. I was like, okay. But no. He called them gazebos.
But they actually saw birth or afterbirth of the birth.
Yeah, that was a little too much.
I was like, Discovery, I can save that. Lifetime, wherever you can save that. I was like, ugh. So, but they're having fun. They're enjoying their time together. He loves animals. But they, having serious conversation about timeline and kids. And
she's got 2 years of school left.
Right.
And again, he wants to make this point of how he's done everything right, basically. Like, he did everything where he got all of his schooling done. He's in his career now. He's ready, for marriage, what have you. And he's like, well, you did that. You partied all your life, and then now you're coming to get to school and you want to have kids. So you got to think about your timeline. You got to think about this. And it was almost like he kind of said this, was like, I'm not paying for you to do what I already did. We're going to have kids and that's going to be it.
I didn't hear that on my end. I think you should give anyone kudos who pays their house off, has no bills, and says, hey, now I have discretionary income. Absolutely. That's what it's called. When you don't have no bills and you can just spend your money on what you want. So I give him kudos for that. And he does mention, but you got to give him credit. He's like, I'm not saying either way is right how you decided about deciding on when you were going to start your career. He's like, but I got a concern is like, he only feels like, okay, you go to school, you start your career, you can't have a child in the midst of that. And Katina is saying, well, my mom was a single parent.
Right.
So she had to have a career and had kids. I'm thinking because I have a partner, we're sharing.
Right.
Where in his head is like, I'm not doing everything.
Right.
Well,
because he makes a statement. He's like, I'm not taking care of a child and taking care of another adult.
Right. I'm like, well, hold on. How do you know she's not going to handle her share?
Right.
You just can't assume that. But obviously, you got to create boundaries and say, okay, while you're doing this, maybe I might have to take on a little bit of this.
Right.
But can we only do it for a certain time frame?
Right.
But, so again, like Katina said, in his head, there's only one way of doing it, but there is multiple ways.
Right.
So a lot of it, he needs to get out of his own head and for them to move forward. But at least he was thinking about it like, hey, if you want to have a career, how can you have kids? Instead of, because he could have came across like, like right after you go to school, we need to have kids. He could have come across like that.
Yeah.
And she is getting, in her early 30s. So, and it gets harder and a lot more things occur when you're trying to have a baby when you're older.
Right.
So I get that as well. So I just think that they need to continue to keep talking. And he needs to think of there's more than one way than his way. So.
And then Mark and Lindsay, they do, again, she demands an apology from him pretty much. He's like, I did not, he's basically making his case. He's like, I did not mean it to harm you or anything of that nature. We were joking back and forth. And all of a sudden I say something and now it's a problem.
Right. And, And I think for her, it's just like, you've said, she has said throughout this course that she can be too much. So
Yep.
if you know you can be too much, then why can't we go along with this?
Right.
Now, sometimes it's just emotional, whatever. And you want to say, all right, for today, I can't do any more today.
Right.
Then you just let your partner know that.
Right.
So he would have had something up front. But you started playing.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it's not play now.
Right.
So, but he didn't call off that bath because they sure did lay down.
They had that sound bath.
And
homie was rubbing the
bowls.
And
I'm surprised Mark didn't have no slob coming off the side of his mouth because he was out.
Mark was out.
He was like, I needed this. I needed time to reflect, have some peace and quiet.
Yep.
He needed that relaxation more than anything.
Yeah.
Because it was tripping.
Yeah, and she says that, for her it was an enlightening thing and spiritual. She had said her grandfather, she got reminded of him and all that stuff. So.
Right. And my thing is, she said, oh, I'm relaxed. And that's what the point he was just trying to make.
Right.
Out of all of that. So I was just like, it was all unnecessary.
Right. Michael and Jasmina go to a medium.
Yes. And the medium shared with her whatever she heard from her familiar spirits. But it brought them closer.
Right.
And I think that's what the focus needs to be, is that out of that, Jasmina wanted to make sure he was good because, again, it's bringing up a very hard part of his life.
Right.
And it shouldn't be typical for kids to have that much trauma.
Right.
At such an early age, and then death just followed.
Now, one thing I don't think that has really been talked about, in my opinion, is we all see and hear the trauma from Michael, but I think that there's trauma for Jasmina. I mean, if you remember her story, basically her mother abandoned her.
That's true.
Her father and stepmother, when they divorced,
that's true.
Father went back to, was it Jamaica, I think it was?
Right.
And so she's now, basically her parental figures are her stepmother and her stepmother's husband.
Right.
So can we talk about the trauma that might be happening there from not, and again, all of her relationships were long distance relationships.
Right.
So there's a trauma, I think, that may not have been addressed.
Oh yeah.
That
definitely.
we keep, we see Michael, and yes, his is very evident, but I think that hers also is maybe kind of coloring how she interacts right now and why she does not feel that deep connection that she thinks that she wants, or the way that she wants to feel it. I'll say it that way.
Right, the way she wants to feel it, because it's hard to connect if you have an abandonment like that, especially when you're talking about like a mother and a father.
Yep.
I can see it being easy to emotionally connect with someone physically.
Right.
Right? Because that means if she uses that part of herself and then he leaves.
Right.
That feeling of that can be devastating. And I think that's really good that we didn't mention that earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that's what's causing her to have this like, yeah, but I don't feel like kissing him, or why is that? And instead of putting it on or projecting that it's him,
right,
it's really her.
Exactly.
And nothing against him, but there's something that she might need to work on that might be broken.
Yep.
So that's good.
And then Steve and Noe, they go to do like it was really cool, like slide or whatever.
Yeah, I think I could do the slide thing. I don't know, I might be breaking. You might have to. I put you in front of me.
But yeah, it was kind of like it was a Vermont amusement park because it had like 3 things it looked like. So.
But the whole thing was for adults, right? So, and that they were having fun.
Right.
And I think they mentioned that they need to do more things just to be fun, keep
it
light, adventurous.
And again, that's where they kind of had the conversation of, okay, we can keep talking about this, or we can just kind of try and move forward from it.
Because he tried to bring it up again about, and I'm just like, dude, if you don't let this go, stop rehashing it.
Yeah.
So.
And then they had field day, so it was kind of like they played kickball,
Yes.
dodgeball, and
Flip the cup.
flip the cup or whatever.
Yeah.
Now Michael and Jasmina were matching all they.
Okay. They had like 2 outfits matching. The t-shirt game was
some
strong.
of y'all had the matching short sets. Back in the day when you would go to the picnic, that's what the assignment they were under. They had
I can see them coming to picnics and all the kids matching, everybody matching at the picnic. So they were making sure they were handling their business. Right. But I thought that was cute. It was another way they were finding a connection.
Right.
And that's why what you brought up, previously about her, I'm like, yeah, because all this other stuff is great ways you're showing how you're together,
right,
and being connected. Also, we had to mention Shirt. I was like, O's trying to start his t-shirt brand. Yeah. Talking about I'm talking with you and not at you. So,
by the way, my LeBron is not my GOAT. And that's available on my website. So kevcraw.com if you want to check that out. I've got some shirts there. But then after that, dinner, and then comes the interesting game.
I was like, y'all setting this up for another night with Lindsay.
So they play the game, basically a game called Most Likely, where it's kind of like what you did in high school. Who's most likely to do this, most likely to do that. Mm-hmm. And so whoever got named the most for most likely was the loser, if you will, right? And so they started off with some, basic questions. Most likely to get plastic surgery, I think was one. Who's most likely to be the best liar? Then Lindsay just keeps cutting. So there was a question about most likely to lie about sex within their relationship. And a good number of them, including her, said that she would be the one.
Right.
And Mark even put her there. And he, they were like, okay, why? And she's like, well, because, she basically cuts him about not being that great in bed, what have you. And yeah, you could kind of see Mark's whole countenance be like, okay, gotcha. He basically is like, look, the reason I say that is because she would probably say more than what it is and say it differently than how he would say it. So he's still trying to protect her, trying to keep, be respectful.
Right.
She's not. She's trying to cut him every moment that she can. There was something else that they asked, and again, she was cutting on Mark.
It wasn't just Mark. It was anyone else that was mentioning something else. And everybody was looking at her like, alrighty. Yeah, and she's drinking.
Yes.
And so, is that the point where it's like, I don't think she need another drink. And I think this game need to be cut short quick. Because after that, she telling everybody off.
Yeah, because the final question was, who's the most likely to start a fight? And of course, everyone was like, the delusional chick over there. That one. Her. That's the one. And so then, yeah, she kind of popped off at, was it Noy?
Steve,
yeah. So the game's over, and we're thinking everything's about to settle down for the night. Mark is basically looks like in an area, and there's production there. She comes out, oh, so you want to turn off to and be part of production now, da, da, da. And he's like, well, I walked away because of what you said. So basically what we get is that she was upset because he used her kerosene.
Y'all married, right? I was assuming they were married. And when did kerosene that you bring in the car that you shared with your husband to a retreat can only be used by you?
It's kerosene.
I'm like, dude. And I think he was making a fire for her. Right. She wanted to go out by the fire pit. So if it's for her, why don't I use your kerosene since I'm making the fire for you?
It's not like you stocking up on kerosene because it's the end of the world.
Stocking up.
You're at a retreat, a resort in the middle of nowhere, Vermont. I'm sure you can run down to the Dollar General or whatever it might be, the general store.
Replace it.
And get some more kerosene if you need to.
Dude. Again. So he tried to walk away again.
And she told him, F off.
And Mike went down,
Mm-hmm.
was trying to talk to him like, dude, is this what you've been talking about? Like, we're seeing it live and on location. And he was like, yeah, pretty much this is kind of how it goes. And Mike trying to give advice like, man, maybe we know it's not about the kerosene. You need to go talk to and find out what it is. And we are like this, nah, man, you
Mike
don't.
was giving counsel for a rational individual, a rational couple.
Like, nah.
He was giving the advice that someone should give, that if the tables were turned, him and Jasmina, it'd be okay to get that.
Not this chick.
But not this one. That type of advice doesn't work for Lindsay.
Cause she on a whole other level.
At least this side of her is. 'Cause there's about 15 sides to her.
I'm just like, dude, this is getting, like again, I was getting tired.
Yeah.
And then he goes try to talk to her. Cause now at this point, she in bed and I would hope she'd be asleep.
Quiet. He shouldn't have said nothing.
But she starts crying, and he's concerned, right? Asks her why she's crying, and she started talking. I was talking to O, and O was sharing blah blah blah, and he's like, I am totally lost in this conversation. I have no idea what this chick is talking about. And then she said something. He's like, that's not right.
He's like, that's a dig.
That's not a real statement. And then he goes, you know what? Because then she sits up. He's like, well, if you're going to sit up and look me in the eye, I am going to look you in your eye.
Oh, and that was the other thing. He told Mark, because again, Lindsay has a problem keeping her hands to herself.
Oh, yeah.
Lindsay has a problem. She always wants to grab on Mark. And he told Michael that she, again, grabbed on him. And he was like, he didn't want that. So they have this conversation. Finally, he's like, I'm done. She's done.
Yep.
So then the next morning, Lindsay is not feeling well.
She had no water. She was just drinking alcohol.
And they were riding down the road because he's taking her to the urgent care, and she about to fall out the car because
she has to throw up.
So,
and then turns out she was dehydrated, and that's what it was. They were playing and doing all this, and you all up in your feelings, and you can't think straight, and you just drinking all day.
Yep.
It happens. But he stayed there with her.
Yep.
Made sure she got her fluids. She slept most of the time. I'm just like, after his 8 weeks is over, I'll be like, I can't go back to work for a month to recover from the 8 weeks.
Okay.
But, and then everybody else was staying behind, obviously.
Right.
And they had breakfast.
Yeah.
And
they, again, good conversations around there. Michael had a great moment. Once, just recognizing that Jasmina was in his corner. And for her, that was touching to hear. Would have been a great moment for him to, kiss, but at least they're holding hands. At least they're still making some type of connection there, right?
Right.
Kind of let slip something about being in love.
You don't think he in love?
I'm his form of love, definition of love, and how he interacts with love. I don't care for it.
Okay.
And because his love as far as is more about, in my opinion, more of a controlling.
Interesting.
It's my opinion.
Yeah, if someone says they're in love, they're love. I know he says he's not throwing around the love word, and I know they were playing, right? They were all talking about someone like, oh, that's looks like love or something.
Right.
But I just think, like everyone else, you gotta work on your relationship, and love will start forming and look different.
True.
Right?
True.
And so hopefully for him, he starts to notice that the more he works on himself and improves how he speaks to her and uplifts her, then he'll see that there's different ways to love someone other than what's in his head. So.
All right. So yeah, we'll leave that. We'll
leave it at
that. All right. It ain't my relationship.
Thank God.
So all right. So everybody's heading back home. The main thing is in the car, Noi kind of starts to talk about what, because her
Her
and
fears.
Steve start to talk about, what it's going to look like as far as living after, decision day.
Correct.
And she talks about her fears of, and her concerns as far as giving up her studio.
Right. And I don't think he heard a word she said.
No.
I was very disappointed in Steve
Yeah.
at that moment because he's worried about, well, it sounds like she's not being serious about marriage. I'm like, dude, she just laid her heart out to you
Right.
that she picked up cross country. I think this is the one where she went overseas to be with someone.
No, she's saying that she moved from wherever she was, where she grew up, to here, to Boston, in order to be with someone.
No, but her family is here in Boston.
Now they're in Boston, but she said that she moved here
Okay.
on her own by herself.
Oh, okay. Well, the point is that she felt like because she had no job, she had no family, she did a lot to sacrifice to be with someone that didn't work out. And that her place, her studio, was her very first thing, like as an adult and doing on her own and feeling accomplished.
Right.
And she's sharing her heart with him. And only thing he got out of it is, well, maybe she ain't serious about our relationship.
Right.
Instead of saying, I get you, I'm here for you, because I felt like a minute he was consoling her, but at the same time, it wasn't like sinking in, this is not about you.
Right.
Obviously she wanted to be married, but at the same time, because she was like, I have to kind of like grieve that I became this individual person without being in a relationship.
Right.
And it's like, he's not getting that.
Right.
So
that, I fault Steve for that. I think that Steve, if he had done a better job of listening, he could have, there's a way to pivot and talk about, one, understanding that, and then how you're wanting or planning to help her to transition away from that.
Right.
So that's pretty much it for this episode. We got next week popping off, and anything you want to say about that?
I'm gonna let next week happen.
We'll let next week happen because O said something, and we both were like, "Oh." All right, so that's it. Listen, again, we appreciate y'all for stopping by. Let us know in the comments what we might have missed and your thoughts. We'll see you all next time. Have a great one. Be blessed.
Bye.